Hi, my name is Wendy Monday. I'm a realtor in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're sitting here today in our personal house. This is my husband, JT Spangler. You
That's
are?
True.
Mm-hmm. We bought this house in 2018 and spent about 1.5 years renovating it, and we've lived in it since then. So this is the story of like how that process went for us and what we did and what we enjoyed and what we didn't like so much, and we're just going to tell you all about it.
It's a historic renovation of an 1885 era, I think, brick mason's cottage, as best we've been able to ascertain. So it was the last time it had been renovated when we moved in looked like the 1970s.
Yeah. Yeah, the ceilings were really low.
Drop ceilings that had plasterboard on the walls, on the brick.
Yeah. All the these tall historic windows, like they were all cut like down.
Yeah, they were all framed in.
Yeah.
It was very 1970s. We're going to save electricity.
Yeah, And there was also a wall that we took out that had a fireplace in it. And we took out the wall, we took out the ceilings.
We took out the floor, we took out everything.
We took out every single thing.
We took out everything except the brick walls. I mean, literally floor, ceiling. Yeah, just the brick was the only thing that was standing. Yeah,
there's nothing about this house that's original except for the 1880s brick walls.
Yeah.
That maybe the person who built this house made the bricks.
Yeah, I think that's what the masons told us, because we couldn't, if we needed bricks to patch anywhere, you couldn't find, he's like, these don't even have like a stamp on them. Someone made these.
Yeah. So again, when we walked in, it looked like the 1970s. There was one of those big padded bars. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And there was nothing about the house that was like habitable. Like the electricity wasn't on, the water wasn't on. Like it was just kind of a shell. So
it had a enclosed screen porch at the rear that was kind of just like an unpermitted structure that had like a washer and dryer in it, and the floorboards were all rotted.
Oh yeah. Well, remember they built it right on the ground.
Yeah,
there was
exactly.
no foundation to that part of it. Yeah. So it was ripe for a huge renovation. That's what we did. We thought it was going to take about 1 year, and it took 1.5 years.
Do you want to focus on the renovation, or do you want to also talk about the acquisition?
Oh, should we talk about how we got it? Yeah, let's do that.
So we were looking for something in Germantown, a single family home, and we specifically wanted to be in Germantown because of the zoning, because we like having multiple uses for our house. And we've been looking for, I don't know, a couple months?
A little longer.
Months. Yeah.
It seemed like a long time.
There aren't a lot of houses in Germantown, so they don't go for sale very often. But this one was listed Saturday night, and it was mislisted because it is MUN zone, which means it can be a commercial property, and they listed it on the residential MLS Saturday, like in the evening.
Yeah.
And we went and looked at it Sunday, knowing that most people wouldn't find out about it until Monday. And then one of us, do you remember who?
It was
wanted to make an offer immediately on Sunday before anyone else saw it.
Yeah. And I did the weirdest thing in the world for someone in my position. I hesitated. We've been looking. It was more than several months.
Yeah, we looked for a couple months. I don't remember how long.
It was a long time. We looked for a while, and then here the perfect thing gets served up. Here's a renovation, a single family house in Germantown. Not that many come available. It was attractively priced.
$400,000.
$400,000.
And it was clearly a historic house in terrible shape, which is kind of right what we wanted.
Exactly what we wanted. And I said, let's wait a day. And what did you say?
I don't know. I was like, I don't think we should wait. I think we should make an offer before anyone else even sees this. We should have it under contract.
Yeah. And I said, let's wait. I want to wait just a day. I would kill a client of mine if they did that. If I found them the exact thing they had asked for, and then they said, let's wait. So the next day we did make an offer, and we got it. And when their contract closed, and then that's when we started our project. And we had never done a historic renovation before. This is in the conservation overlay, historic overlay, which is the most stringent of all the Metro Nashville historic overlays. So there were a lot of regulations that we had to abide by, and a lot of things that they got to dictate to us.
All to do with the exterior.
But
still, when you have to go through it and you realize how much the process is not meant to be transparent or user-friendly.
It was.
And how much oversight any specific member of the historical commission has over your design choices.
it was difficult. So there is a lot of oversight that comes with being in historic zoning, but we navigated it all. We got through it pretty easily.
Easily, but we got through it.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
We painted like 7 different colors on our house, and they had to come over and tell us which one we could pick.
Yeah. That is true. Because we initially wanted it to be white, but it had to be a masonry color. So we ended up painting several of those on there and finally got one that they accepted. So we got through that kind of process. Let's talk about some of the major things we did to the house. The first thing that I always like to tell people is that we pulled up the hardwood floors, which weren't original, and like there was nothing worth saving there. And we did concrete floors in a historic house, which is kind of different.
Well, we also pulled up the subfloors because once we pulled up the hardwood, we realized that the subfloor was in pretty terrible shape. And then there was a kind of crawl space, but it wasn't it wasn't encapsulated or anything. And so we knew we had to either go back with all new subfloor, all new floor joists, subfloor, and then hardwood on top of it, or we could fill the whole thing with gravel and then fill it with concrete. And we kind of preferred concrete, and when it turned out they were about the same price, we said, let's just do the concrete. And then I saved a bunch of the original floor joists, which were 150-year-old heart pine, and then we used them to do other stuff with, including this table that we built with a local furniture maker. Is the structure's made out of those heart pine joists.
Yeah. The concrete floors are one of the things that people notice the most when they come in here because it gives a real industrial feel to the house. When we were doing it, a couple of people remarked to me that, aren't those going to be cold? And they aren't cold because they actually all have in-floor radiant heat, which JT engineered and installed on his own.
I tried to find someone local to do it, but no plumbers in Middle Tennessee really deal with it. And so the prices that they gave me, plus the stuff that they would say, it's like, well, it would be, I don't know, $25,000. And I was like, oh, do you do a lot of these? Like, no, we've never done one. I was like, I don't think I'm going to be the guinea pig. And so I did it myself. And I found a company out of New Hampshire that would help with the design and basically ship me all of the parts that I needed. And then it was kind of like putting together really expensive Legos. And then you pour concrete on top of it. And then once the concrete's cured, you hope that you didn't make a mistake because there's no way to get the concrete up once it's down.
Yeah. So that's
it works.
And
it's awesome.
It absolutely is awesome. And it heats our house. It's this really nice, warm thing. If you're watching this and you're in the northeastern part of the country, you're probably like, radiant heat floors. Lots of people have those. But if you're in the southeast, not a lot of people have it.
Well, it's not very. It's not a great fit for our climate. But one of the reasons that we wanted to do it, I wanted to do it because it's a much more pleasant way to heat a house. There's no forced air blowing allergens at your face level. It's coming from the floor where you need it to be warm. It's super pleasant for the dogs and the toddler and us when we're barefoot. But the other thing is that we didn't know how well this brick would retain heat because there were plenty of places in the walls that you could see through when we were done with the renovation. And everybody we talked to as far as insulation went like, it might be fine or it might be really cold. So like, it would be good to have an auxiliary heating method. Yeah. Really, this is the primary. And then we still have forced air. So if it gets into like single digits, we use both. Yeah. And if it's just kind of regular cold, 20s, 30s, then the floor is actually perfect. We don't need to do anything else. Yeah. But on the really cold days, I'm glad that we have both because the brick wall does still leak. Yeah. And that's an interesting point. Like people did say, and we talked to plenty of experts. We had talked to a lot of different contractors like, hey, what do you think we should do about the, energy in this house and insulation, stuff like that? And you're right. Nobody really knew. No one ever gave the same answer. If 2 people had agreed, we would have just done that, but no one ever gave the same answer. And I finally concluded, no one knows. They're guessing. If they're going to guess, we should just guess and do what we want to do. And that's what we did. Yeah. And speaking of the brick walls, so the brick was covered in plaster and drywall. So when you walked in, all this lovely exposed brick was not here. And when you pull that off of a wall, there are still parts of that plaster or drywall that cling to it. And getting that off, like the finish to where we are now, was a journey as well. We tried a lot of different methods. We tried like brushing it with a brush. What else did we try? What else did we try? It felt like we scrubbed it with those like bristle brushes for a long time. We tried to use compressed air. The challenge was that the older brick is softer than modern brick, so you didn't want to damage the brick. So you couldn't really do anything like pressure washing or anything abrasive. Yeah. We tried to use wire brushes. What we ended up using mostly was just kind of flat metal blades on a demolition reciprocating saw that you would just kind of just go and it would just peel it away.
Yeah.
And then once that was done, then we did a lot of brushing.
And then the compressed air. It was
only, and then the compressed air. I did a bunch of it myself, and I also had a crew of like laborers that I hired to help. It was very labor intense. It wasn't.
Yeah.
But it was just like, if we damage the brick, we don't have any way to replace it. So we need to kind of go slowly.
Yeah. And I had this kind of analogy in my head, like with the compressed air, because the brick is so specific and it's not indestructible. I thought to myself, like, this could be like the Three Little Pigs. Like, we could huff and puff and blow this house down, and I didn't want to do that. So we got past the floors, we got past the brick, we put a metal roof on the house, and we did an addition on the back. The house itself is kind of 3 sections of brick structures. So there was the original brick house, and then there was an addition, and then there was another addition. Those 2 additions, one is our son's room, one is our room. And then you get to the back of the house where we built our primary bedroom, suite, bathroom, and then above that we have an attached apartment with a separate entrance. So the house itself, while it's really narrow, it goes for a long ways, and that is where our au pair lives, and the au pair that lives with us and takes care of our child. And that was a deliberate planning as well, because we knew we were going to have a child when we did this, and we wanted to have some space for that person to live. And so we have an attached apartment.
Well, before we had our son, we just rented it. It was just an apartment that someone lived in.
Yeah. So it's got this nice attached rental unit, and then you have a courtyard, and then you have a garage and a structure above the garage, which we actually rent out to a salon right now. Because we're in mixed use zoning, this house, if we moved out of it, could be a business. Our garage apartment above it is a business. And that's been a really neat part of having this particular flexible zoning, is because we could rent it out to somebody who was living in it, but we can also rent it out to a small business, and we have. The zoning of this neighborhood really allows for this incredible quality of life where you can walk to a lot of businesses, you can walk to restaurants, you can walk to shops. And I think that is one of those unique value propositions to what people really want out of living in a city. And if you're going to have that, you have to have the zoning where you're flexible in having a house next to a business. We live next door to a business. A really busy business, actually. Yeah. And you just kind of have to be comfortable with that. Like we sit on our front porch, and people of all walks of life and lots of tourists talk to us all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else about the house?
I don't know. What kind of stuff do you want to focus on?
I think people what do they ask us about mostly? Like, I mean, the questions we get a lot are like, how long did it take? It took 1.5 years. How much did it cost? Well, it was a series of projects. So there was the house itself with the attached apartment, and then we did the courtyard, which is like kind of our backyard. And then we did the garage with the dadu above it. So it took us several years. We acquired the house in 2018, but the dadu was finished in 2021.
Yeah.
So, that's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, for sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else that we did that was potentially interesting. We did mini splits throughout the house. So I like efficiency. So radiant heat, super efficient way to heat. We have a tankless natural gas heater that gives us all of our hot water, including for both the radiant and our domestic hot water uses. That's a very efficient way to heat. Metal roof that's metal colored, reflects heat really well. That helps keeps our energy costs down, especially because we weren't able to insulate as well as you probably would like to. We have our fireplace, which is like aesthetically is great. I don't think there's another one in town, but also gives a little heat in the room that we're in. We did mini splits throughout. In the attached apartment, they have just a standard wall mounted mini split, but in our main house, we have actually a ducted mini split, which you don't see a lot of, but again, a very efficient heating system that not a lot of people were that familiar with. We had to kind of find a mechanical contractor who was used to doing that. Yeah. So those are some maybe unusual choices that we made to make the house more efficient from an energy standpoint, and also just nicer to live in.
I think space planning wise, that's another challenge that people would find surprising about our lifestyle that we have in this probably 2,100 square foot house total with the attached apartment, somewhere around in that. Our living space down here is 2 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. And then upstairs we have a full apartment with a full bath, a little kitchenette, and their own laundry. It works out really well for our family. We have a postage stamp size front yard that we actually use quite a bit, a nice dog run on the side, and then a really beautiful courtyard. But this is all very compact. It is very much an urban living situation. It's, we don't have a huge yard with a big play set in it. We don't have, a guest room if people come and stay. There's actually a really cute Germantown Inn across the street. And that's where people stay if they come and visit us. JT's parents stay there quite a bit. So we don't have a lot of extra spaces, but it keeps us together and it keeps us really like interacting with each other, especially our son is 3 now. And it's nice for us to all be like in this really close knit space. We walk out the door and go a block or 2 to our favorite restaurants. And it really functions well for our family, the size of it.
And also it's not a lot of space, but it's where we need it. Like the main living area, the living room, and the kitchen and our little dining table is all just one huge open space. That's half of the square footage of the entire main level of the house. That's where we always are. And it's got vaulted ceilings that are like, 14, 16 feet tall. So it feels very open and spacious. We chose the hanging teardrop fireplace so it doesn't, the old original fireplace was huge and really broke up the sight lines.
Yeah.
So it feels like we have this one huge room that we're in most of the time, which we are.
Yeah.
And then our primary bedroom, where the bed is tiny, but then the bathroom is much bigger. And that makes more sense because that's kind of a more functional space than really the room that you lay down and sleep in. And then, Wolf's room is small, but it has everything he needs. There's room for all 3 of us to go in there and play. He's got his own little bathroom and a little tiny sink.
We even recaptured, there's only one like storage closet in the main house, and we recaptured that as a little like play nook for him.
Yeah.
So he didn't have a playroom. We don't have a bonus room, obviously. And we recaptured this one little spot, and it's got, a little place for him to sit and read if he wants to. But he actually really does like to go in there and play with his puzzles and play with Play-Doh and stuff like that. So we've maximized every single space in the house. But
in this, we had one closet in the entire house, and it was ostensibly going to be a coat closet, but we didn't have a pantry.
Yeah.
And then we kind of said, we don't really, it's Nashville, you don't need coats that much of the year, but we do need somewhere to put our food and our microwave. And so that ended up being where the dog food goes and the microwave goes and all of our food. And then we just keep our coats either on hooks by the door or in our bedroom.
Yeah.
And then we have a built-in at the back of the house, which is our little drop zone where Wolf puts his stuff when we come in. And then we have another little built-in where the dog bowls and stuff like that are, and some built-in shelves where we can put our bottles of booze and stuff. Yeah. But there's not a lot of, there really isn't, there's plenty of storage, but there's not a lot of what you think of traditional storage, a bunch of storage closets and coat closets and attic spaces. We do have some attic spaces that you have to really work to get into.
You have to want to get in the attic if you're going to put something up there. You have to not want to have it.
You have to bring a ladder in and climb up. Yeah. And only I ever have done that. Yeah. And it's not very often.
Yeah. But what that does is keep you from acquiring a whole bunch of stuff that you don't need. Like, it's a really nice way to forced minimalism. I often tell people when they're looking at houses and when they're thinking about the next house they're going to buy, measure the rooms that you use, because that's what matters. If it's a smaller primary bedroom like ours is, again, we're just sleeping in there. If we were doing like big projects in it, I guess we need more space, but we need the space in this living area, and that's where we have it. So measure the rooms that you use and make sure that those are adequate for you, but try not to get hung up on something being a certain square footage for you to want to live in it, because that's not necessarily the marker that you need to get to necessarily.
Yeah, I've never been in a house in my whole life and opened a closet and it was completely empty. Like, if you have space, you just put stuff in that space. And if you don't have space, you just figure out what stuff you don't need. Yeah. So I kind of it is challenging. Like, if we want to buy something, it's what are we going to get rid of? Yeah. But I like not having rooms filled with things that we don't use, that we're paying to, heat and cool year round.
Me too. And I love this house.
Yeah.
I really do.
It's a great house.
Yeah. I love that people walk by and chat with us. I mean, the lot itself is only 29 and a half feet wide. And then our front porch is probably, 7 feet from the sidewalk?
The edge of our front porch is 12 feet from the sidewalk.
Oh, really?
And
It feels
our lot
closer.
is 29 feet wide and 9 inches.
Oh, yeah.
It's supposed to be 30 feet, and it's 3 inches shy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But you're in it with the people who are walking by. Like, we're really connected to the neighborhood, and we're really connected to just the hustle and bustle of life that's going by our house. And I really love that. I like being a part of things. It's a fun way to chat with other people. And also, like, they often comment on the house, and that's really sweet. Like, say, oh, what a cute little house. Of course, you can also see straight into it from the sidewalk sometimes, and we try and not let that happen.
Yeah, I like to close the shades as soon as it gets dark outside, because if it's dark outside and light inside,
you can
we have
see
a huge
everything.
picture window. You can see halfway through our house, everybody walking by.
Yeah,
but that's easy enough to fix.
It is. And I will kind of wrap it up with this. When we were in the middle of this project, I said, oh my gosh, if we ever finish this, I will never do anything like this again. And do you remember what you said?
I said, we might.
Yeah.
We probably will.
Yeah.
Not right now, but after a couple of years.
Yeah. And after we moved in, 6 months later, we bought another thing and started renovating it. So it's what they refer to as the messy middle. If you're going through a renovation project of your own right now, just know if you're in the middle of it and you're thinking it's never going to end and you hate it and you really wish you could get out, you will forget all about that once you're in the house and you love it. And you will probably want to do it again, because there is something about taking something that was kind of derelict and neglected and bringing it back to life.
Yeah. Renovation is type B fun.
Yeah. It's
Have you
not
heard
fun.
about that?
Yeah.
Like when you're backpacking, it's not fun while you're doing it.
No.
It's fun later. Like riding a roller coaster is type A fun. It's fun while it's happening.
Yeah.
Renovation is like backpacking. It's not fun while you're doing it. It sucks while you're doing it. You go, why did we do this? This is dumb.
Yeah.
And then later you go, I'm glad we did that. I would do that again.
Yeah. That's renovation. Type B fun.